Okay.
Mr. Sapp,
As I provided to the council in the packet, the city's looking to eliminate our underground storage tanks and go to a fleet card that many municipalities use. There's a couple reasons why we want to do this. It's been discussed. We have one of the problems is the HR tanks. It's been recommended that we get on a plan to start removing these tanks. And the other one is we got maintenance we need to do to these tanks. We have new pumps that are obsolete that are in need of being changed. We have currently no checks and balances on record keeping fuel that is used, and the WEX card will keep track of that and send us a report every week or every month on who uses it, what they use. They'll all be assigned a number, a card. I've used these in the past. It depends on how we set it up. A lot of it goes to the card goes to the driver. They'll either use the last 4 digits of their driver's license or something like that that identifies that person, and the car will also have a number, and you put in the mileage. And these cards, you actually, when you put them in the pump, it prompts you to do all these things before you even pump the gas. You know, what is your vehicle number? Who's the ID? Then you pump your gas, and then it keeps track of everything we use and who used it. It also can be interfaced with our GPS. So we're getting our vehicle's GPS, and the WEX card works with our GPS on knowing where the truck is actually gassing up at the pumps, things like that. So it's got really good checks and balances also. And we have a gentleman here that is from the insurance carrier that insures our tanks. If you have any questions for him, he can explain to you exactly what's going on with our underground storage tanks.
Mr. Staff is here from Nickel and Staff. He's the agent of record who actually secures the policy for the tanks. I know he's been out before. Policy is due to renew in September. There was a recommendation, though, given to the city that we start pursuing some other avenues based on the age and the longevity of these tanks. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Staff if you have anything else that you want to add to the discussion.
Really here to answer your questions. Thank you, Sheila. You've got a couple of tanks at Station 2 that are 34 years old, and it's my experience with other clients that when those tanks hit 35 years of age, they become, if not impossible to insure, very, very expensive. Expensive from a premium perspective, and also expensive from the standpoint that the insurance company, trying to motivate you to do something else, increases the deductible, so your out-of-pocket expense goes up. State of Michigan says that as an underground tank owner, you have a financial responsibility to not only maintain the tanks, but also provide evidence that you can take care of third-party damages and site cleanup. So if you think of it in perspective of the state gets involved in property casualty insurance with workers' compensation. If you're an employer, you must take care of lost wages and medical bills. If you own a vehicle, you must insure your vehicle and have the no-fault coverages. If you own a bar, you've got to have liquor liability coverage. And if you have an underground tank, again, the state steps in and says you have to have coverage to do those two things: protect third parties and clean up your site. You can secure this by buying traditional insurance, which the city has done, or you can file for financial responsibility, which is an annual filing that requires evidence of financial responsibility, and I think is pretty onerous as far as the time and the effort to complete and comply with the state. A couple of years ago, those of you that are here recall that I kind of raised the red flag that I was concerned about the tanks, and I'm glad to hear that this is occurring. I've got another municipality here in Wayne County that recently mothballed their tanks and are using a card system and very happy with that. I've got another municipality, Macomb County, where their fire department, they mothballed their underground tanks and they installed a 2,000-gallon above ground tank just within the last 6 months. And that 2,000-gallon tank, 2,000-gallon double wall tank protected by bollards with emergency shutoff cost the township $5,600, just to give you an example. The above ground tanks are a lot less onerous and aren't under the same state scrutiny as the underground tanks.
Now, I guess the requirements that you mentioned, are those MDEQ standards that we're
abiding by for the tanks, or?
They're state statutory requirements that are enforced through the MDEQ.
Okay. What are the rules surrounding the MDQ with the tanks being underground, as far as like brownfield standards, things like that, as far as remediation, as far as mothballing it compared to some other method of getting that tank out of the ground?
I'm getting out of my area, but I do know that if you close the tank, you're obligated to notify MDEQ. And they give you a certain period of time to come up with an action plan for removal and remediation. If you don't do it within a certain period of time, the site is marked. The site is identified as with an open, they call it an open spill for lack of, I think, a better.
Contamination.
Yeah, and until you go through the removal process and the remediation and evidence the fact that the site meets certain minimum requirements, that red file exists on the account or on the property. Now, for some municipalities, I know many municipalities that operate that way, and their philosophy is this piece of property is a government property. It's always going to be a government property.
Right.
You know, we're fine with this. We know about it. I've got other municipalities that are concerned because their property abuts a neighboring property, and this may become a problem with the neighbor if, you know, big development happens or something, and they come in and they start doing, and I don't know if this is changing under the Trump administration, but we kind of, this pendulum is swinging back and forth. There was more scrutiny on the prior administration regarding financing with government insured mortgages, and I don't think that scrutiny may be existing much longer, but those are just some of the reasons why a governmental immunity or governmental entity would have been encouraged to address the closure.
Thank you.
I have a question. Even though the tank is closed off, how much of an insurance liability do we still have as long as it's under the ground?
You own it. You're liable.
Right.
So from a statutory standpoint, whether the tank is operational or whether the tank is emptied out and just sitting down there waiting for the next step, you're still liable. So this is where you come into a situation with insurance. You empty out a tank, and the tank sits empty for 4 years, and you finally decide we're going to remove this tank. And as the tank is removed, it's determined that through the years and age that there was seepage, and you've got to clean up and remediate an area of 50 feet around the tank where the tank was. That's an expense that you're going to have to bear from age and use. It's not a spill, it's an age and condition issue.
So we won't really save any money on insurance until they're gone.
No, you'll save insurance when you close the tank because you won't be buying insurance for an inactive tank.
Sure.
What percent? I mean,
Your premium right now is approximately $9,000 a year for all the tanks, but we start getting over in the 35-year range. You're going to see that number. I conservatively can think it could double.
so we'll still be paying the $9,000 a year, even though we're going
No.
to the.
No, as you close, or if you abandon or mothball the underground tanks, we would remove them from the policy. You can't insure a tank that is not operational.
Even though there's still always a slight possibility an empty tank could be hazardous?
Yes, but remember, insurance policy is going to cover you for spills.
If you're not in the-
Yeah, so if they come back and they clean up and they say, this tank was, again, 30 years old and there was incidental leakage, that's not defined as a spill. So really, it doesn't bear a benefit to the insured.
I have a question
Madam
about
Chair,
that.
I actually have experience with removing tanks from another municipality and having it leak and going through the remediation process. The goal here is to remove these tanks because we haven't tested and we haven't detected any age yet. But because of the age, we would like to get in front of the game here and get these removed before we have any incidents. When we remove these tanks, we are required to have a consultant, an environmental consultant, oversee these tanks being removed to see if there's any detection of any contaminants in the ground, so we can report that to the DEQ. I'm hoping that we don't have that. I'm sure you're gonna have some residual spillage, a little bit when people were filling up here and there, but that will be determined at the time the tank is removed. And if there is a lot of, just say there is a lot of ground contaminants, then you're gonna be required to do some monitoring. You're gonna have to put monitoring wells in to see what the extent of the leaks are. And if it's contained to your property, it's not that big of an issue, like the insurance gentleman said here, because it is our property, and there's different ways of remediation. So a lot of times it dissipates after several years.
I have a question on, currently, Glenn, do you negotiate the bulk fuel price annually? Or are you, because now they're going to be paying market rate at whatever BP or Amoco or Marathon.
Minus federal taxes.
Minus taxes. So is there any cost analysis been done on how much we'll save or pay more in fuel at all on this?
We looked at it, and it's all, the problem is getting an analysis on that. It's all market price. The fuel prices fluctuate, so we're gonna be paying, and
So
every gas
time you
station is
every
different.
time you get a fuel delivery now, you may be paying a different price. There's not a negotiation that goes on, it's not a contract, is that what you're telling me? For fuel purchase.
Sorry, if I may, just, what we do now is, I don't know if it's a contract now, but what we do is we do pay a certain percentage over the cost of the commodity. That's all it is. We pay also transmission fees and the cost of delivery fees. Those are the fees that you typically see on the bills from our current provider, which is RKA. And I think that what the council was asking, if there was a cost analysis between that and the price per gallon we would pay with the vendors if we go to the card.
Right.
I'm not aware of one. I don't know if Keith's done one, but I don't know what it is. But like I said, you just got to take all those into account. The savings on the insurance, the savings on the cost to transport the fuel to us, and things like that, against the whatever
Right.
the
I
market
mean, there
rate for
could
the
be a
gas.
significant savings here, would just be nice to see that.
Yeah, I spoke with Richard about doing some kind of analysis, and all we can get is, minus the federal tax, and of course, the price at the tank,
You know what the-
$1.97 at the gas station, it goes up the following week to $2.50, then you're just paying that $2.50 minus whatever the federal tax is.
Do we know what the federal tax is normally on a gallon?
Yes, I do have that in your packet. I think it's 18 cents, something like that.